Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So great to be here for the second year in a row speaking at Media Post on behalf of Cognitiv. It's great to see so many familiar faces in this group. And for anyone who hasn't met me yet, my name is Dani Swanson, and I'm a senior account executive at Cognitiv who provided these gorgeous tote bags on your seat. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about advanced AI and how you can utilize it to further understand and glean patient mindsets to drive outcomes at scale. Everyone's favorite 9:15 a.m. conversation, advanced AI. So to just jump into it, for those not familiar, Cognitiv is a deep learning advertising platform. And essentially what that means is we use the most advanced form of AI called deep learning, and we use that to build custom targeting solutions for our brand partners to help them drive outcomes at scale. But I think in the context of AI, it's important to take a little bit of a step back. We've heard it brought up a couple times in this room over the past day. There's a lot of excitement around AI. There's a lot of buzz. There's a lot of hype. But it's still a buzzword. It's still a space that's very, very cluttered and ambiguous. And so I think to ground any conversation about AI, it's important to understand a couple things. Firstly, what type of AI are we talking about? There are many forms of AI, and not all forms are created equal. How is this AI being implemented and where? And also, how is human intervention involved to really ensure that that quality is maintained over time? And so when I say deep learning, what I mean is the most advanced form of AI. So if you've never heard of deep learning before, an easy way to think about how it functions and what makes it different than other forms of AI is through the analogy of ChatGPT, which I'm sure you all know and potentially use. And so deep learning is a technology that's able to ingest a lot of data. And it's able to make sense of that data and contextualize that data kind of like a human would, and use all of this nuanced understanding of what it knows to make advanced predictions at scale. And so Cognitiv has been at the forefront of the AI space since 2015, and we were initially founded as an advanced performance platform, helping brands drive, outcomes like incrementality, lifetime value, ROAS. And something we uncovered when analyzing our performance solutions was that, to no surprise to anyone in this room, contextual relevance is often a really, really strong indicator of both intent and action. And so we also built a standalone contextual intelligence suite that we'll talk a little bit about today. But to step back and talk about some of the challenges that have been addressed in this room so far, I think we all know that AI is not going to enter as some silver bullet and solve all of the problems in this industry, even though we may want it to. But I will pose that advanced AI is uniquely capable of really addressing some of the challenges in the pharmaceutical marketing space, in being able to extract the most that it can from the privacy compliant signals that we do have access to, and using that to create a better, more seamless digital experience for that patient and user to drive and foster trust. And so one of the approaches that we've kind of delved into in this room so far is uncovering mindset and really aligning with the right people when they're ready to receive information. And so Cognitiv's approach or perspective on mindset is through a tool that we call Context GPT to power contextual alignment. So the name kind of gives it away, Context GPT. You can kind of think about it like ChatGPT for contextual advertising. And so what makes this tool very, very different in market is that it doesn't use any keywords at all. The reason behind that is really that we find keyword targeting isn't necessarily a perfect science. Just because words are or are not on a page doesn't necessarily mean that that page is relevant for your specific initiatives, or that that page is brand safe or suitable for your specific perspective on what that means for your brand. And so instead what we do is we pass every URL on the internet through the GPT-4 large language model to understand it like a human would. So not just what words are on the page or not on the page, but really how are those words being used? What's the sentiment behind this page? Is this article written in a salesy way, in a sarcastic way? Is the language geared towards a healthcare professional or someone who has a medical degree? And things of that nature. And so I mentioned that we don't use keywords. Instead, we use custom prompts. We can take a couple approaches to doing this, from prompt engineering to leveraging immediate brief, but we also have this adult Mad Libs style input tool that usually, if it weren't 9:15 a.m., I would have you all fill with me. But the gist is we put sort of basic inputs in about a campaign, and the tool will build prompts written in the style that we might want these articles to be written in. And these prompts essentially go out into our growing database of over 200 billion URLs to find which are the most relevant to your specific campaign needs. So when I say relevant, you'll see an 80% marker on the top left there, which is a relevancy score. You can kind of think about that in the same way a geofence functions. So the higher the relevancy score, the tighter that radius around the prompts, and the tighter the scale as such. And so this is kind of what we view as step one. And we can actually further refine and train these models by going into the URLs and saying, this one is a very compelling representation of the type of content this audience is going to be consuming. So I'm going to like it. And we're going to tell this machine, go and find more articles like that. By the same token, if we see examples, hey, this is a diabetes article, it's really focused on type 1 diabetes, I'm really focused on type 2, go ahead and dislike it, and it'll remove all the types of content that are similar. And then you'll see all these filters on the right-hand side. And I mentioned that we have all this nuanced understanding of contextual data to isolate further what is the type of language being utilized. Is it positive? Is it inclusive? All of those kinds of things. And so, sorry, actually going back. I think one more important and interesting facet of this tool is when we talk about disinformation, which has been brought up a few times. If you think about keyword targeting and disinformation, you can kind of see how it may not be a comprehensive approach. An example of disinformation is probably going to include a lot of the keywords that are valuable and indicative of relevant content, but the way they're being used is incorrect. And so we've actually worked with partners in the past to build these prompts to find disinformation online. And while you can obviously exclude examples of disinformation, we've also seen partners take an educational approach and actually look to align within those environments to help combat, the case of the plague of disinformation that we're seeing online right now. So to further isolate mindset, contextual relevance is really only one indicator. We can also add the user into the equation and really look at where the intersection of user behavior and contextual intelligence is. And so if you think about a user's online behavior, the types of URLs, the types of content they're visiting really tell a story and paint a picture as to who this user is, what they care about, what their interests are, how they make decisions. So for example, you can imagine that maybe understanding someone is a value shopper might indicate that certain messaging around, copay possibilities would be particularly compelling to that user. And so when building a predictive model, we actually start with the outcomes that you care about most from a site or backend performance perspective and reverse engineer the equation to understand who are the users who are executing these actions, and notably, how did they get there? What are the signals that precede and contribute to this outcome? And how can we use that to find new and high value users at scale? So an example in this space, we've been working with a partner for many years on a prospecting perspective to find new and high value users to actually use an on-site doctor locator tool. So finding these users as they're ready to take this action with an HCP, but haven't actually been reached yet. And we've seen really compelling results for this. Cool. I know we covered a lot this morning, and it's bright and early. So if you take away anything today, what I really want you to take away is that no, AI is definitely not some silver bullet that's going to solve all of our problems. But when utilized in the right way, it can help you better understand your patient audiences and build that more, a compelling digital journey to drive outcomes at scale. Thank you all for your time and attention.